Our first matter of business this evening will be the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody will please stand. Colonel, you care to lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Once again, if anyone who came in late, please make sure that you silence your cell phones or turn them off, whichever you prefer. Please make sure they're silenced at the very least. And at this time, we will have a moment of silence. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, our first item this evening, first item on the agenda will be approval of the agenda. And I know the Colonel has a couple of modifications that we need to do. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the gentleman requests permission to adjust the agenda to remove 2B and make that 6A. Correction, make that 6E.
All right, so we're removing it from the consent agenda, but we're not removing it from the overall agenda. We're just going to move it to 6E.
Correct.
All right, so 2B to 6E.
6A is county manager update. 6B is surplus property. 6C is county board appointments. 6D is legal advice regarding tax appeals. 6E is public library exhibition loan agreement. 6F, property acquisition. And 6G, Hurricane Helene cash flow loan program. Gentlemen, so your questions, that's all the changes I have.
Hurricane Wayne what?
Hurricane Helene cash flow loan program. That's a tongue twister.
And 6F was what, Colonel?
Property acquisition.
Gotcha. When we're changing 6C to 6D, correct?
Yes, moving everything down.
All right, and 6C is going to be what?
6C is county board appointments.
Okay.
6D is legal advice regarding tax appeals.
6B is what then?
Surplus property.
Okay. 6A is what then?
County manager update.
Okay. That's where I missed what you were talking about, I guess, or where I missed it, where I went off. All right. So we have Colonel's comments about the agenda. Are there any other adjustments we need to make to the agenda, or does someone care to make a motion as recommended by the Colonel?
Chairman would also need to remove item 4 from tonight's agenda. That has already been acted upon and is in motion.
Okay. The action we already had taken on that
Yes.
did not need for it to come back before us tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so we are striking item 4 from the agenda, which is the preservation grant program for Hot Springs and Marshall, the Rebuilding Together grant fund that we actually had approved in the last meeting and did not need to be on the agenda for tonight. All right. Any other modifications from this board? Hearing none, I will make a motion that we amend the agenda as we just outlined. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Garrison. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right, so we have a modified agenda. Next item on the agenda is going to be the consent agenda, which item 6B was pulled out of, 2B was pulled out of and made into 6E. So that is, consent agenda now consists of the tax refunds and releases, the recycling and disposal contract, the internal control policy, the grant project ordinance amendment, Hurricane Helene disaster response and recovery, the Mosley Jail Pod renovation contract, the resolution approving our nonprofit donations, the county building resolution, which is which all those have been moved up because we took B out, I'm sorry. And then finally, H would then be the approval of our January 14th regular meeting minutes and January 28th special meeting work session minutes. And at this time, I will entertain a motion that we approve consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chairman Hensley. Any, sorry, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Garrison, or Wyatt? All right, sorry. My ears are still a little stopped up from being sick, so it's hard to tell where the voices are coming from. All right, so, all right. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right. Our next item on the agenda is public comment tonight. And it looks like we've got 2 folks signed up for public comment. First up is going to be Ms. Cindy Davison. Ms. Davison, come up to the podium, please. You've got 3 minutes.
I've got a comment.
All of our speakers have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and what community you're representing, and we'll go from there.
Okay, Cindy Davison, Big Laurel Community. I just want to say thank you to the commissioners and all y'all out there. I know it's been a challenging year for all of us, but I appreciate the leadership and the help and the care that you've given to our community. I've seen it firsthand. I've experienced it firsthand. When I've asked for help, I got it. And so I just want to say, I don't know how many other counties would do what you all have done, but you worked day and night, and I know that you have, and I just want to say thank you. I'm proud to be a Madison County citizen.
Thank you. Very kind. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Doug. Doug, is it Leas? Lease. I'm sorry. I'll know that. I should know that. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You live 150 feet from me.
No, I know. Yeah, it's very true. It is very true.
My name is Douglas Lease. I live at 350 Vista Point Drive in the development of Seven Glens. My concern actually is when you come out of Seven Glens and you start heading towards downtown Mars Hill. I don't know if anybody knows, obviously you guys have been, I mean, quite literally busting your butts and tails, working not just 1, but 2, 3, 4 hats sometimes, you know, post-hurricane, etc. I don't know if anybody knows that Holcomb Branch, some of that belongs to Buncombe, some of that belongs to Madison, but there's a lot of washing out on the sides of the road that leads up and down that hill heading into and to Mars Hill coming from Seven Glens, and you're seeing a lot of concrete starting to go from underneath it. My concern would be, we have a lot of senior citizens up there in Seven Glens, and I'd hate to see, you know, at night like this, rainy, shiny, if we can get a survey crew. I don't know how the county does it, if that's a county road or if that's a Mars Hill road per se, but I think it could be a safety impediment. And again, I know you got a lot on your plates, and I appreciate everything that you've done, but what I do not want to see is somebody's grandmother going off the side of that hill because the road washed away when we weren't paying attention. Also trees and stuff to that effect. I know that you guys are working diligently with getting trees away from power lines, but there's still some falling stuff that's over in that area. And of course, the cleanup from Hot Springs and Marshall will take precedent in my opinion. But safety is safety, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. At this time, I entertain a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Garrison. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right. Public comment is closed. Our next item this evening will be Madam Finance Officer Carrie Leffert.
Good evening, gentlemen. Find before you budget amendment number 8. With this amendment, you will see donations to your library from the Friends of the Library in the amount of $1,123.96, as well as a grant from the American Library Association in the amount of $10,000 in the aid of Helene recovery. Also, the addition of disaster relief funds for the Department of Social Services in the amount of $122,755. Your Animal Control Department has received $50,000 in donations, as well as a grant from the Jeff Field Foundation in the amount of $10,000. You can also see some movement from your department's workers' compensation lines. That's just adjusting to the actual. And here too, find a recording for the additional revenue generated by the Coruscant sales tax. of $52,413.01. All of these amendments are pending your approval.
So I think it's worthy to mention, just for the public to know, the grant, or excuse me, the donation for the animal shelter was from who?
That was multiple donations
Right.
over the last 3 months, the 50,000. There was also the 10,000 from the Duffield Foundation, which I think there's information in there on there. That was also the Maddie's Fund at one time they donated to us.
Right.
Or granted us.
I just want to make sure they got a public shout out for that.
I think also Snook to the Mars Hill University donation of $5,000.
That's where I was gonna go from that as well. So, Marshall University, but I don't know, was that,
It's
did
not
that?
included in this.
That'll be next month, correct? It'll show up
Thank
next
you.
month.
Yes, sir.
But the animal shelter did get a $5,000 donation from the Marshall University as well. And it's also worthy to note that one of the interns there at the animal shelter is a student of Marshall University as well. So wanted to thank them for their continued support of our community and the help that they do. But anyway, sorry to interject, carry on. All right, so that's all she's got for us on the budget amendment. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion that we approve budget amendment number 8.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chairman Hensley, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wyatt. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right,
Thank you, gentlemen. Next is item B, which is January's financial report. We are 58.8% into this year, and for our general fund, we have received 58.91% of our revenues, and our expenses are at 43.36%.
excellent.
So our expenses we were running low,
That's correct.
and that's still the trend,
That's correct.
43 at this percentage. So.
Yes, sir.
Of course, those are our budgeted expenses. It doesn't include the additional stuff that we've had to do because of the storm relief and all that, correct?
Those amounts are in there.
They are in there now?
They are
Okay,
in there.
excellent.
They're included in that 43%, yes.
All
Good
right,
job.
even
Good
better
job on
then.
all of you.
Even better, I thought we were holding back on some. All right, any questions for Madam Finance Director? All right, I think you're off the hook, thank you.
Thank you, Director.
gentlemen.
All right, next up on the agenda this evening is County Manager Rod Honeycutt with our County Manager update. Colonel, the floor is yours.
Gentlemen, we'll start with the bubblegum chart, what we've affectionately named it now. And I will walk you down each line briefly to give you a snapshot of where we're at in time. I'll start on the left with the Hot Springs Library. Right now, we've received $180K against a $225,000 bill. We're still waiting on one insurance claim from NCACC. That will be the trigger to proceed with construction. And that insurance has to be billed, so before we can tell FEMA we have a gap or not. We anticipate that coming rather shortly, and we anticipate doing a repair on that facility pending the arrival of that check. Gentlemen, the next line is the Hot Springs Library contents. We've had to add a content line for the library, Sprinkle Shelton Building, and the courthouse. We originally had those rolled up into the lines themselves, and under FEMA's guidance, we had to break the contents out separate in case there was a difference of funding. The Sprinkle Shelton Building, we have contracted with an architect and engineer firm. It'll be about 4 weeks before we have the final estimate of what it will cost to repair or remove or replace that building. We're in a holding pattern for that one. You see the Sprinkle Shelton content line next. Next is the Madison County Courthouse. That is in the same status as the Sprinkle Shelton Building. The same engineer will do the architect and engineer and provide us the firm.
Now, they've already looked at them, is that correct or no?
They have walked through, took pictures and done the assessment, and now they're doing the software models of what it would take to replace the buildings and replace the contents to give us a cost that the county should expect to use in a FEMA request.
So Colonel, is that estimated cost under the courthouse estimated for repairs?
It's repairs.
And that's just a preliminary guess, it's
Preliminary
nothing
guess.
formal at this point, correct?
Correct.
No, more or less just a placeholder right now.
Correct.
Okay.
Next one is Barnard Park. Barnard Park, we have received the estimates of about $160,000 plus what we've already spent. That has been loaded into grants portal, and we should see that start moving with construction and rebuilding Barnard Park. And then also see that come in from, that's one of our first requests into the grants portal. Ducket Top Tower, the tower equipment's on site and they're still doing the cement for the base of it. That has been loaded in grants portal for a total of $606,000. The Ducket Top Road has also been loaded in grants portal for $14,000. Personal property debris removal, we have halted personal property debris right now, pending to negotiations with our monitoring company. Our monitoring company owes us a performance bond. If we don't receive the performance bond, we can continue, and if we don't receive the performance bond, we will select an alternate from the state and proceed. I know there's a sense of urgency to move with debris removal, and we will move expeditiously to get that underway.
Was that was personal property, or that's not waterway?
That affects both.
It does.
It's the same company affects
Saw your
both.
message before, but
So the contracts that we signed last month,
the
the contracts that we approved and I signed last month are being held up because the debris companies have not been able to produce performance bonds, is that
So-
correct?
So there's two contracts. The first one is SDR, who actually removes the debris.
Mhm.
They are in compliance.
Okay.
They do not request not a construction bond, so they're in compliance. It's Debris Tech who is the one who's required to put up the bond according to the state contract. And we have a meeting, they have a meeting tomorrow, and we think we'll get a resolution. Either we'll continue with Debris Tech or move to the next company who's the alternate on the state list.
very good.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, moving on with the tip facilities. First two trailers will arrive at Elizabeth Lane on Monday. We've set the conditions to hook those up through next week, and we think that our IT department will be able to move out of the sheriff's department sometime next week and into the facilities up there, and we'll also be able to have some of the FEMA guys who are helping the county to have a permanent space up on Elizabeth Lane. The courthouse, the 18 tractor trailer trucks are scheduled to arrive on March 15th. We have an April 4th occupation date. We still have a little bit of work to do with the bid for the grading of the park next door to get it graded. But right now, we're on track for everything to still have the April 4th occupation date.
And just for people that may be in the room or maybe watching online and haven't been keeping up with this every step of the way, that's not the courthouse. That is going to be our temporary courthouse, so we can move court out of this facility into a more appropriate facility for the court system, correct?
Correct, sir.
And that'll be more of a long-term solution until we either move on with repairing the current courthouse or move on with construction of a new courthouse.
Anticipated 40 months.
Correct.
Colonel, they have poured footers for those modules.
Yes, sir.
Have they been poured yet? I noticed they digging them the other day.
No, sir.
So if they pour them, we'll still be able to set them next week.
Yes, sir. Jim, moving to the last two, the force account labor and the Helene expenditures. You can see right now about $2.5 million is what we're estimating. We have just now started to load those into the grants portal. I think good news, we have about $5 million loaded in the grants portal. And that's why that I asked to put that cash flow loan program on. So I can give you a little bit of update on that, because I don't want the county to be at risk if FEMA delays or the state delays. We don't have to use any of the existing county funds. We'll go into more of that as we get to the next one. Gentlemen, some of your questions on that one, I'll move to the next slide. Gentlemen, want to follow real quickly on this one, individual housing and individual assistance. To date, 4,149 residents of Madison County have received a total of $4.944 million since the beginning of September. The big number that I want you to focus on is over on the right-hand side. We had 56 families receiving rental assistance. We had an increase of 3 last week. That's the number we want to see go down to 0 eventually, that they'll be off that program. And you can see we did have 3 family members move out of the transitional sheltering assistance, which is good news, but they're on their own now. And we get this update every Monday. And then next month, during the meeting, the Housing Coalition, Chris will come in and give you an update on where we're at with the long-term recovery group.
And so these are, and just again, for those watching online and new to the room, that's the FEMA money. So currently FEMA has already distributed 4.9 million in individual assistance within Madison County, just for the record, and that's, I guess I'm gonna guess it's 64,578 different.
That was an increase.
Oh, that's the dollar amount, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
that's an increase.
Yeah.
Over the right is the current number of residents, the 4,149.
4,149, okay, gotcha. Thank you, Colonel.
All right, gentlemen, subject questions, we'll move to 6B, which is the county-owned surplus property. Gentlemen, this is PIN number 9841.47.5742. It's 21.5 acres, has a tax value of $136,459. We received a bid of $6,000 to date. Gentlemen, ask for your consideration or approval of this bid.
So guys, we've got three choices here. Essentially, we can either accept the bid, which then begins the upset bid process. At which point we can then, once the upset bid process plays out, we can either accept the final bid or reject it at that time. We can reject the bid outright now, currently, or we can counter offer to the individuals who have placed the bid. So at this time, we've all had the opportunity to review this. I think a couple of us have actually gone by to check out the property where it's located and kind of get the lay of the land there. So I am opening the floor up here for whatever the wishes of this board may be.
Well, I'd like to just point out some factors on that. That property through there, the interstate changed all that when right then domain came in. It's a potential, we don't really have enough information, it's potential that property actually may be landlocked, which in North Carolina, there's avenues to alleviate that, but it's a pretty significant avenue considering the location. My suggestion would be let's do a little bit of digging on the deeds to confirm if it's landlocked. If so, obviously the values of that property is significantly only to the people that are adjoining it, which I think there's at maximum 3, one being a bidder. You know, if we're thinking about $6,000 for $135,000 worth of property, that may or may not be good depending on how accessible the property is.
Alan White knows about that, but I can really comment on it.
That's steep in there.
Have anything to say about that?
Well, just what Garrison said, and, I agree with him that we need to make sure it's landlocked, but it's only, as it looks right now, it's only useful to those that join, one of them being the bidder. There's no way in or out of that property except through the bidder's property.
Well, and I would even say, Commissioner White, it may, even if it's not landlocked, it still may be cost prohibitive to put a road into it, just based on the terrain. So I think those are things to consider when we think about the value of it.
So Mr. Attorney, do we actually have a fourth option where we can table this, or do we either need to accept or reject it or counter offer?
Oh, you can table.
Okay. So we actually do have a fourth option of being able to table this. At this point, from the discussion that I'm hearing, of course, I don't want to cut off discussion if there's anyone else who would like to chime in on this, but it's sounding like we need to table this one till next month, so we can have the opportunity to garner a little additional information. Is that correct?
That'd be my position based on the fact that before we catch a rapid for selling $135,000 value piece of property for $6,000, we at least have some articulable justification for that.
Sure. And of course, if we do approve it, just for the record, that does begin the upset bid process. The other people who have joined this property have the opportunity to buy it and upset this bid, or somebody totally outside, for whatever reason, wants to take a risk on buying a piece of landlocked land. They have the ability to do that too. So You know, if we were to, accept the $6,000 bid, that only begins the upset bid process, at which point, if we're not satisfied with what the upset bid process does, at that point, we can still reject it. So, again, it opens the floor up to whatever you guys want to do. I'm fine with it either way. We need to either accept, reject it, or table it, and I'm looking for a motion.
So it looks like before the tax reevaluation, it was valued at 53,000, and then it doubled. No taxes have been paid on it since 2012.
Which is why we own it now.
Yes. So it's, they owe $5,526.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Briggs to accept the bid and begin the upset bid process. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So we have a second by Commissioner Wyatt, motion by Commissioner Briggs. This time, open for additional discussion. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of accepting the bid and beginning the upset bid process, signify by raising your right hand. Any objections? All right, it's unanimous. I couldn't see the end of the table, so I apologize. All right, so now we've accepted the bid. We will begin the upset bid process. I would suggest to any commissioners that might live in that community to let the neighboring landowners know that that property is available. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner White.
All right, Jim, we'll transition to 6C. That's the board appointments. Jim, 2 board appointments for the Board of Health with a list of applicants below.
All right, so we have 2 positions on the Board of Health, and at this time, I will entertain a motion from the board here.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we just table these 2 for now.
So we have a motion by Vice Chairman Hensley, who also happens to be the commissioner representative on that board, that we table the appointments at this time. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Garrison. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of tabling? Okay.
John, will bring your attention under the recommendation received and submitted for appointment. Connie and Tammy both submitted names as requested from DSS and the Health Department. Those 2 that go down.
That's for the VIA Health
Yes, sir.
Advisory Board. And let's see, so we have the recommendation of Connie Harris by the DSS Board, and Keith, is that
Hoke.
Hoke, is that how it's pronounced? Hoke?
Yes, sir.
From the Health Department as recommended by the Health Department. Was that recommended by the Health Department Board or Health Department Director? I'm guessing Director. Okay. All right, so we can do them individually or we can do them together as a package deal, I believe. Is that right, Mr. Attorney?
So,
All right, so this time I'll entertain a motion
so moved.
for both.
Yeah.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Garrison that we approve Connie Harris and Keith Hope as the recommended individuals by the corresponding departments on the VIA Health Advisory Board. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right. And you guys can see it with the upcoming board vacancies that we have coming up there for next month. I think those are next month, correct? Mandy? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, next item.
Jim, that's everything for open session at this point.
Okay, so library discussion, 6E,
6D,
sorry, 6D legal for tax appeals, 6E library project, F is property acquisition, and G is the Helene cash flow loan. and all those require legal guidance before we proceed tonight. So at this time, I will make a motion that we go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, A3, A5, and I think that covers both of them. Is that correct, Donnie?
I think you're right.
All right. I've made that in the form of motion. Is there a second? Second by Vice Chairman Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right. That doesn't conclude all the business tonight, but that concludes this open session at this time. And attorney's microphones on, or are these just for the room? Okay. All right, so we are back in open session. Colonel, you've got some information?
Yes, gentlemen, I'm gonna ask for the board's approval on a motion to approve the contract with NASA with the county's attached addendum for the library NASA exhibition.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Garrison, I will second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Gentlemen, that's all of it.
So at this time, I'll entertain a motion that we, no, we're not adjourning.
Recess.
We are recessing this meeting. At this time, I will make the motion that we recess this meeting to be reconvened at 4 p.m. on Thursday, February 13th at 140 Elizabeth Lane, in order to conclude the additional business from this meeting that carries over from closed session.
Okay.
So we have a motion by me, a second by Vice Chairman Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? We stand recessed.
That's-